We are Indiana Institute of Technology, so just by seeing the name, or more affectionately known as Indiana Tech, you can tell that we are a STEM school. We of course do offer more liberal arts programs, but the crux of all of our degree programs are going to be a majority STEM based. So of course I'll talk a little bit later on what those different degree programs are, but just know that if you are interested in any of STEM programs, whether that be any engineering programs or something computer science and cybersecurity, you're more than likely to find something here at Indiana Tech, because we do offer over 60 different programs, and I'll be talking about those a little bit later on. But of course, the most important thing is going to be the degree programs, but I think to understand what makes Indiana Tech, the Indiana Institute of Technology, such an amazing school is not only the first-rate education that you'll be receiving, but also the personal and individualized care that you'll be receiving from all of our staff. We are a much smaller school, so what that means is you're going to have more one-on-one time with all of your professors and your advisors, but you will really get to know everyone and get the sense of community. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So of course, the most important thing when you're talking about a school is where are we located. As mentioned before, Indiana Tech, our main campus is in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Now, Fort Wayne is our main campus. We do have a couple of different satellite campuses throughout the Midwest region, but Fort Wayne is the only campus available to international students. So if you are looking at studying as an F1 student, the Fort Wayne campus is going to be the school that you study at. Now, just a little bit of information about Fort Wayne, Indiana. We are the second largest city in Indiana. We have a population of about 300,000 people. Fort Wayne is an incredibly diverse city. We have a very myriad of different populations that are joining us here in Fort Wayne. About Indiana Tech in general, we do have an incredibly diverse campus as well, which I will touch on a little bit later. Another great thing that makes Fort Wayne just so incredible is we actually have the lowest cost of living in the Midwest region. So what that means is compared to other larger cities, whether that be New York City or Chicago, you're going to be paying a lot less in terms of groceries, just entertainment, cost of living in terms of rent and transportation. So I know this is a very important factor for students as they're considering what region of the United States they'd like to live in and in terms of what universities they'll be studying at. And of course, one of the most important things, especially for parents who are sending their students abroad, Fort Wayne is the 5th safest city to live in the United States. So any family members can rest assured that where they're sending their students is going to be a place where they're both safe and taken care of. Just a very brief overview of Indiana Tech. I don't want to get too bogged down on the history. We were started in 1930 as a small engineering school. So you can see from our very beginning, our roots were rooted in STEM programs. But of course, over the years, we've turned into one of the strongest universities in the Midwest region. We do have 5 colleges and schools here, both in STEM and non-STEM related programs. But today we will be focusing more on those engineering programs. And of course, last but not least, we are ranked in the top 100 colleges for highest return on investment. So what this means is whatever money you are putting into your program in terms of tuition fees, program fees, this is money you'll be directly receiving back once you do get a job prospect and start earning a salary as a worker. Getting into our different degree offerings, we do have STEM options in both the undergraduate and graduate level. I've made these lovely QR codes. If you would like to take a look at our website, they give such excellent breakdowns of what our different degree programs are. You can take a look at job prospects, salary prospects, as well as the different course curriculums for each program. So I always recommend to students when they're trying to pick a different program, if they might be trying to decide between two, just taking a look at those course curriculums, and that way seeing the different courses sometimes help a student to make a choice between 2 different programs. Now, I would recommend for anyone, you're more than welcome to take a picture of the screen, or you can go ahead and just scan with your camera onto these different QR codes that will take you directly to our website, which is just a fabulous function. Within our undergraduate programs, our most popular are going to, of course, be those engineering programs. We do have a myriad of different engineering with biomedical, electrical, mechanical technology, software, and network engineering. Our computer science programs are also incredibly popular. We do have computer science and cybersecurity. We do have a cybersecurity team that competes in the different national competitions, and they are very successful. They've won the national championship a couple of years in a row. So of course, if you're interested in any different computer science or IT courses, those are also available for you as well. Our most popular graduate program is going to be the Masters of Science in Engineering Management. You will be required to have a background in engineering for your bachelor's degree. We also have an information system concentration available, so that would be our MSEIS program. Now, to understand what makes a university incredible, you also have to look at the life, what student life is like, what we have to offer our international students. As I mentioned before, we have an incredibly diverse and supportive campus. We have about 1,500 students on campus, and of those 1,500 students, 18% of them are international, and of our entire student body, 49% of our campus are students of color. So as I said, we have an incredibly diverse campus, and I think this really just enriches all of our students' education opportunities in terms of learning from different cultures and just helping to build their worldview by interacting with various different groups of people. Of those 18% of international students, they do represent 30 different countries. And another couple things about our university that are great, we are a more relationship-based education program. So that means getting more one-on-one time with your professors, having incredibly small class sizes to make sure you are getting that personalized care. We also do have our Career Service Center, which is here. They also have an expert on both OPT and CPT applications. So as an international student, you really do have someone here every step of the way to make sure that you're not feeling overwhelmed, that you're really maximizing your education here with us. Now, I know the application process, depending on what school that you're applying to, can be very different. It can also sometimes be very overwhelming. So at Indiana Tech, we really try to make this process as simple as possible. We want to take it kind of at different stages. Instead of just throwing everything all at once, we like to take it in different steps. The first step would be to, of course, fill out your application. The Study Metro team is more than welcome to help you fill out that application. They will be there to, if you ever have any questions or concerns, they will be there to guide you. So that application is free. So once we receive that application, we will reach out to you personally, one of your admissions counselors, and we'll help get you collect different documents. And then once you have that admissions decision and your scholarship decision, then we'll move on to those important document collections for your I-20 to make sure that you can get your F1 visa. And then once you do end up getting your visa, we will help you make travel arrangements. I will touch a little bit on what this fall will look like because, as we all know, this fall is going to be different than any semester that any of us have ever seen in terms of the COVID-19 situation. So I will talk a little bit about Indiana Tech's response to COVID-19 in just a moment. Very briefly, just touching on some of the different documents required, because I know this also differs between students, but it is a very important thing to note when you are looking for universities to apply to. For undergraduate students, of course, that application is the first thing you would need to turn in, and then we will need to see those typical documents like any high school or college transcripts. The SAT and ACT is not required for international students. It is totally optional. If you want to take the test and send us the scores, that's great, but if you haven't taken the test and have no plans to, that's perfectly fine. We also will need a different forms of English proficiency scores. So if that means an IELTS test or a TOEFL or a Duolingo or PTE, whatever one of those tests may be, we will need to see at least one proof of English proficiency. For graduate students, it's a little bit different. The process is a bit more simplified. Of course, we will need your application and all transcripts and proficiency scores. For our graduate students, one important thing to note, we do not require any letters of recommendation, nor do we require the GRE or GMAT test as well. Very briefly, I won't get too bogged down on this as this is something that you and your counselor will work on a little bit later. Just for your immigration documents and I-20s, of course, as any other school will require, we will need your proof of financial support, a sponsor's affidavit, and a copy of your passport as well. One of the most important things in students' minds, the one question we probably get asked the most, is tuition fees. So for any of our different programs, every undergraduate program pays the same tuition rate, which will be about $26,990 for our fall semester. Now, between each year, that number does raise a little bit just to go with inflation. So those numbers could change depending on what start that you're applying for. So please go ahead and feel free to take a look at this QR code. Now, what may change depending on your program are our different program fees. So engineering programs tend to have a little bit higher program fee. And if you are living on campus, you do have different housing options and housing costs as well. For our graduate students, this is where it gets very simplified. We have our engineering per year tuition rate is about $12,000, just shy of $12,000. We do estimate about $10,000 for living expenses as well, but this is merely based on what apartment you choose to live in and what your cost of living would be as well. I will note, for our tuition and fees, Indiana Tech actually offers one of the most competitive rates for our graduate programs. This is about half or 50% of what you would expect to pay at other universities for graduate programs, where some you might expect to pay upwards of 20 to 30,000 at Indiana Tech per year, you would be looking at about 10 to 12,000. As we're just looking to end off here for scholarships and aid, this is also something that students are very interested in. Of our international students, you are automatically eligible for international scholarships. About 90% of our incoming students do receive some type of institutional aid from Indiana Tech. We do have our Premier Scholarship, which is based on your GPA and academic history. This is available up to $15,000 per year, and this would be a decision that is made once you do get your acceptance letter. So of course you will receive your acceptance letter and your scholarship letter in your acceptance packet. We do of course have one presidential scholarship, which is full tuition, that does have a separate application. And if you are planning on being an athlete, those scholarship decisions would go through the athletic department instead. As we're ending here, just a very brief touch on what Indiana Tech's response to the COVID-19 situation has been. I know it has been an incredibly stressful situation for students all across the globe, with that being concerns about safety and health, but then also concerns about not being able to apply for school, not being able to take any of your high school examinations, not being able to apply for a visa appointment. So just know that here at Indiana Tech, we are putting our international students as our top priority. No matter what situation, we are working with students on a case-by-case basis to make sure that you are getting the attention that you need, that you are going to be able to start when you want to start. So there are different options available for international students. If you prefer to just defer to either the spring or next fall start date, we're more than happy to do so. But we also want students to know that you do have the option to attend classes either completely online for the fall semester or offered a prorated scholarship available for students attending part-time that do plan to transfer to our campus later in the fall or for the next spring. Now, depending on when visa appointments become available, we are working individually with students. So even if you aren't able to come right at the beginning of our August start date, we will have alternate start dates to account for students that will be arriving throughout the semester. So if you aren't able to get here right away, and say your visa appointment is in September, we will work with you to help you get that alternate start date. So of course, hang on to all of those I-20 documents, make sure you're applying for a visa appointment as quickly as possible, and make sure you're contacting your counselor, your admissions counselor here at Indiana Tech, as we will work with you to get you started and get you transferred onto on-campus classes. And just lastly to note, for any scholarships, if you are unable to attend or you're only going to attend part-time for the fall semester, all scholarships will be extended until the end of your degree program. So that is something very important that I wanted to make sure that our students knew. So as I'm sure most of you are, if you're ready to become an Indiana Tech Warrior, which is our mascot here, we do recommend reaching out to the Study Metro team. They are more than happy to help you start that application process here to collecting documents. They really are your guide through here and will be your liaison to the Indiana Tech office. Once we do get all of your application documents, we can get you an admissions decision in as little as 2 to 3 business days, which in comparison to a lot of universities in the United States where sometimes that wait time could be anywhere from a couple of weeks to a couple of months. Here at Indiana Tech, because we are a smaller private university, we really do have the time and care to work and give that individual attention to each and every one of our students. So as I said, once we do get those documents, we can get you that decision in as little as 2 to 3 business days. That way you are prepared to take that next step to getting your education here in the United States, and so that you know where you stand in terms of our university and where you stand in terms of getting your visa application. Last but not least, we do have a virtual visit that's available. I know no one is able to join us for on-campus visits, so I do recommend taking a scan of this QR code, getting a little 3D rendering of our campus, being able to walk through all the different buildings and get a look really is a great way to take a look at what our campus looks like and just look at it from the perspective of someone who is already here. So it's a great way to see what you would expect to see when you do finally join us on campus. You're more than welcome to follow us on social media. We are incredibly active on Instagram and Facebook. I'm posting on Instagram and Facebook always very regularly. We do have different campaigns running for different students, and social media is an excellent way for us all to stay connected. Even though we are social distancing, we are quarantining, in a time where we may feel very isolated, social media really does help us to feel connected. And last but not least, as our slogan here, Indiana Tech is go for it, go for IT. We recommend all students to take that chance. You know, I know people may be wanting to put different education plans on hold, but at Indiana Tech, we do recommend just go for it. Take that step, and we are here to help you through every step of that journey. We are incredibly excited and we look forward to working with you in the future. And I thank everyone so much for taking the time to join us for this presentation. And again, thank you to the Study Metro team, Abby and Zed, thank you for putting this event together. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us or reach out to your Study Metro counselors as well.